Act 1. The year is 4 BCE, and Herod the Great, not the same Herod from Jesus' early years, dies. The news of his death brings renewed hope for Jewish independence from Rome. During Passover, the reading and remembering of a story about how God had delivered their ancestors from captivity in Egypt, pointing them to this promised land in which they are now occupied. The hope for Jewish independence grows. There had been a rumor, a long-standing opinion, that the Messiah would appear at Passover to defeat the Romans. So during this Passover in 4 BCE, while Caesar Augustus and the Roman Senate were reviewing Herod the Great's last will and testament, the Jewish people rebelled against Rome and their sympathizers. Those who benefited, or at least wanted to benefit, from Rome's occupation of Palestine, these sympathizers in both Jerusalem and in a town called Sepphoris, which is near the town of Nazareth, the Jews rebelled. The news spread quickly of the uprising, meaning that Roman armies stationed in Syria, as well as infantry and cavalry from Rome's allies in Arabia, rushed to Palestine and squashed the rebellion as quickly as it started. The Romans burned the town of Sepphoris and sold its residents into slavery. And in Jerusalem, thousands of Jews were slaughtered and 2,000 of them crucified. Act 2. Stage left. Pilate and his consort arrive at the city gate of Jerusalem. Roman occupants, sympathizers, and those his soldiers could round up and bully into being there, lined the streets of Jerusalem just inside the city gate. Pilate's cronies and supporters and slaves laid down fine linens and roses in the road. They draped laurels all around Pilate's chariot, which was pulled behind a mighty war horse. Pilate changed into his red toga to signify his military might and victory, and musicians were hired to line the streets, blowing their trumpets and leading the crowd in knowing what to do. Honor him loudly, chanting, "Rome will save us." Before Pilate emerged through the gate, his captive, a criminal named Jesus Barabbas, is led into the city chained. The crowd goes quiet. If there is rebellion, if you disrupt the status quo, we can exchange you for Jesus Barabbas. We can give you this violent criminal in place of you. We can let other cities know. We can let them do what they want with you. If you rebel, the symbol is clear. Violence will come to this city. Violence will come to you, to your family, one way or another. Aren't you so glad? Aren't you so glad he's here? Surely, if Pilate's here during Passover, those ungrateful Jews won't get any idea about disrupting our way of life. A Roman sympathizer in the crowd whispers loudly to their friends. There is renewed hope among the powerful that Pax Romana, the peace of Rome, which was enforced by might, would hold. Stage right. Jesus and the disciples have come from Jericho, the east of Jerusalem, and arrived just after Pilate's grand entrance into the city at Passover. There's a small crowd of disciples gathering at the east gate, excited at seeing their rabbi, who's been traveling for some time. When Jesus says, "You know what would be funny? If we had our own little parade." At Jesus' directions, the disciples run off to gather a donkey and a colt. They rouse the small crowd to cut some vines from the bushes to make a laurel for Jesus' head, to cut down some branches to wave at him. They take off their cloaks and they lay them down in the street, and giggling, Jesus mounts his donkey and spurs him on. As he enters the gate, the crowd has grown. And the rally cry that has spread throughout the crowd is this: Hosanna! You are our rescuer. Save us. Hosanna in the highest. You are the best rescuer of them all. Blessed is the one that comes in the name of the Lord. You are our rescuer from God. Hosanna. Save us. Center stage. In the Roman Empire, there are two groups of people: the honorable ones and the humiliated ones, the bourgeoisie and the les miserables, the upper class and the lower class. The honorable ones, the bourgeoisie, the upper class folks, are on stage left, nearer to stage left, engaging in Pilate's entrance. The humiliated ones, les miserables, the lower class, are here in center stage. To whom will they be drawn? Act 3. Stage left. The year is 2017, and the Trump administration has made 3 attempts to implement travel bans on 7 majority Muslim countries. Some of the worst fears of a Trump presidency are coming true. His racist rhetoric is being put into policy. Jeff Sessions is our attorney general and defends these 3 travel bans. The next year, 2018, the Department of Justice, headed by Jeff Sessions, ups the ante and implements a zero-tolerance policy, which, among other harms, separates children from their parents at the U.S.-Mexico border. Stage right. Kate McKinnon on Saturday Night Live makes her debut impersonating Jeff Sessions. In her impersonation of him, she reveals that Jeff Sessions is half possum, his tail holding up a sign with the truth behind him when he's lying with his mouth. In another sketch, halfway through the scene, Kate McKinnon as Jeff Sessions pops out of a dark cabinet and returns to the cabinet to retrieve his possum relative, while affirming racist and sexist and abusive remarks and behaviors by an impersonated then Senate candidate Roy Moore. Center stage. Children in cages with aluminum foil blankets. Refugees in camps around the world, within and beyond their home countries. Americans who cannot return to their motherland, who cannot see any of their relatives. Act 4. It may not seem like the most useful thing to do, mocking government officials. But when you've signed a petition with 600 other United Methodists to file a complaint in the United Methodist Church against Jeff Sessions, and you've attended protests at the airport against the travel ban, and you've shared the posts on Facebook denouncing the treatment of migrants at the border, all without much effect. When your hope is waning and the oppression and the extreme policy does not stop being written, when you're committed to nonviolence and don't believe in assassinating these government officials, satire is what we have left. Jesus knew what was coming. Jesus had warned his disciples that he would be handed over to the government and to the temple officials upon entry to Jerusalem. He knew that he would drink the cup of suffering. He knew of crucifixions. That was the weapon of Rome. I wonder if the people of Jerusalem could ever look at Pilate again without seeing the roses and the fine linens underfoot as props, without remembering their cloaks in the street and their palm branches waving. I wonder if the people of Jerusalem could ever see their governor in a chariot behind a war horse without giggling at the sight of Jesus on a donkey. I know that I can't think of Jeff Sessions without thinking about Kate McKinnon and possums. What it does for us, what it did for me, to mock and to play with our oppressors, is it reminds us that our oppressors are just people. Their power is not ultimate, it is momentary. Their lives are not eternal, it is brief. And the hope of the people, the joy of the people in the face of oppression and suffering is the ultimate act of resistance. As our song for this morning said, everything I am for your kingdom's cause. Our humor, our laughter, our snark, our play, everything we are for your kingdom's cause. As we walk from earth into eternity, as we walk from Palm Sunday into the events of Holy Week, we remember that all of it, all of us, everything will be used for your kingdom's cause. The end.